So as time went by, we did Hawaiian culture-based education in other ways, through, she was a makua for many years, ran May Days, did incredible Hawaiian May Days. I incorporated as much as I could in my class. I'm a mahi'ai person, so farming has always been a big focus for me. And then and we found out the most powerful thing is when we take the kids out to where the other Hawaiian culture-based education is happening, whether it's Molokai Makahiki, which we did for like 10 years, we'd take them there. When we did after-school programs and work, we would take them to Oahu, to Big Island, to Molokai, Maui, all over. We took them to different places, and having those culture exchanges tend to be a very powerful experience for the keiki. But then, so I moved from elementary, I moved up to high school, and so I had the same kids come through again. So they kind of, I seen a lot of them they did really well. They're still doing really well. A lot of them actually came back and are now Hawaiian medium teachers. They actually were inspired by that movement and decided they want that. And also all their kids, they're sending to Hawaiian medium. They're like, oh yeah, we want that because we've been there, we've seen it, we know it's good.
So it's the planting of the seed was planted back in 2000.
When I first started 2001.
2021
yeah.
or 2001.
Those first 4 years, I took kids every year.
So the success of us being able to generate a kaiapuni or an Olelo Hawaii school in Hana, the seed was planted 15 years ago. 20 years ago. So like a fruit tree, it takes about that long for a fruit tree to fruit, and there has to be, like all trees, nurturing. Something you gotta be putting on top of it. You gotta put something in it. Because you cannot just plant the tree here and just go.
The weeds cover them.
You always gotta keep on planting, reminding, give them experiences as they start to build, so they wouldn't forget the feeling of being able to have this type of education. So although it was planted in 3rd grade while he was an elementary teacher, where he took his classes off the island to the Big Island where Hawaiian culture-based education was rampant. There were numerous amounts of schools that was functioning, some with the Olelo Hawaii, some without, where culture was the main focus. But being able to see that these are options of education. Now, if you're parents, you have the options of where you're going to put your child. And it's really the philosophies of these schools that will motivate you to say, this is the school I like my keiki go to. However, at this time in Hana, it was like a no-brainer. We send them Hana school. And whatever Hana school delivers is what we're going to get. We have no choice. But that mindset has been generated through generations. So this is like 3 generations set in already. People are already thinking that way. We don't can have any kind of options. We're going to take whatever Hana school going to give us. We know people that left
Hana to get Olelo Hawaii. Several families that left.
And so we kind of started to Paulo had incorporated culture-based education, which was piko, starting in the morning with oli, teaching them the oli, letting them know this is the routine. And before lunch, pule. We're going to do pule, ika Olelo Hawaii. So they learn these pules. In the afternoon, what they would call hands-on project-based type of education, which was being able to incorporate all the subject areas in a project. Yeah, and that is key. Like that, to me, if you're gonna start with something, project-based is the way to do it. Pick a Hawaiian,
tree.
Male, something Hawaiian, and allow that to generate all the content areas, subject areas that you have to be able to hit. Just doing coconut husking. I did coconut, so I took canoe plants, and that was my biggest way of building curriculum, Hawaiian curriculum, and facilitating as a facilitator, a program facilitator for a nonprofit, and working in the Makua program. But having these type of activities finally incorporated into the school system started to win favor in the kids and in the parents. So it was a buy-in. Hawaiian culture-based education, for it to be successful, you gotta, there is a buy-in, and when you have a choice of where you're gonna put your kids into, you're gonna get one buy-in. You buy into the philosophy of that school. That's where you put in your kids. That's the kind of education you want your kids to know. But in Hana, we started to introduce it. The kids were, they were engaged. Good word, yeah, engaged. They were doing it. They were not having to be disciplined to be able to do it. So it started as planting of the seed, continuously nurturing them, getting them into routines and olis that we were able to set in place before the exchange. Now we teach them pule, we teach them the piko, but is this something to them who've never seen nothing else? It's like, oh yeah, that's just something we do in the morning. But when we had we had to take them to other schools who did that so they could be able to use it and do it in a different setting, in a different type of reason of doing piko. Now we know that this is more like an olikomo. This is how we're going to introduce ourselves as we go into these different areas, these different schools. So what that had happened, it really reinforced the different parts of the culture-based education aspects that we had planted in our keikis. And it was the kids see it at school, but the parents that we took as chaperones didn't see it. So they were able to see what their kids know, how they're able to oli and be able to use what they have been learning in school. And they stood a little bit more prouder. They were proud. They were the first time they're seeing their kids in action in these Hawaiian schools on the Big Island. And we got the parents buy-in. So doing this for several years, 5 years or so, was the seed that was planted. And like Paulo said, he started it in elementary. And that's where our kids was, our two oldest. And lucky them, because Dad moved to middle school when they went to middle school. So he reinforced to pretty much the same students. And then when they moved to high school, he moved to high school with them. Lucky kids of ours. Get him K to 12. But it was again reinforced. And by that time, these kids were going out and becoming adults, having not just a section of their education in their lives, but pretty much had it nurtured throughout their whole schooling. So when it was time for them to be offered the opportunity and the choice of Hawaiian culture-based education through Hawaiian medium, which is language incorporated, they were the very first ones there. If they weren't the ones who went away to school and learned Hawaiian, because they were inspired, then they were the ones who had the babies that they were gonna put their kids into. So it was, I think, the hardest part of being able to develop something like that was really getting the buy-in of the administration and of the teachers. But go ahead, Bob.
So, but one thing that had really driven me to push hard for our Hawaiian medium pathway was the next kids are coming up that didn't have me in elementary, didn't have much Hawaiian culture-based education exposure. Because we had, from the Pico that I started third grade, it ended up being a Pico the whole school did, in elementary, middle, and high school. But when they got to high school, it was so sad. Half the kids didn't have any buy-in to it. Even though they learned the Pico in kindergarten and were supposed to know it well, they wouldn't chant it. They didn't have any pride in it. They were ashamed. They didn't, even though they were Hawaiian kids, Hawaiian wasn't interesting to them. And, they had, and a lot of them were so not even that. They weren't driven to do anything. It was, I was at one point, I was a science teacher and I was also health and PE and ag and other classes, and it really broke my heart when this incredibly smart child, young woman or man, has all this potential and just doesn't want to do nothing. Just sit there and or look at my phone. You gotta fight them, take their phone away, and they don't do nothing. And it was like, I was like, wow, we gotta catch them young. We cannot let their spirit was just killed. Like their spirit was just dead. And I still wonder what, I have my reasons why I think that happened, but part of it was they missed that Maui. A lot of the teachers are from Michigan and all the mainland at Hana School, and they never had that same, there was just academic. It was never about the whole child, about fostering their spirit and their identity. So it was really breaking my heart. So I told Fawn when our youngest baby came along, I was like, we got to get it going. We got to fight it for our baby. So we fought hard to get it, and God opened the doors. And Kamehameha was a big, important part, especially for Punana because we had everything. We had the students, we had the kumu, the facility we couldn't get. The one that we were trying to get, we needed a lot of renovations. And at the last minute, they opened their preschool and said, you know what, we'll give you half the building since half the kids want to go on that route. So Kamehameha opened the door for Punana, but we realized our daughter was going to miss it because she was always going to hit 5 already. It's like, bro, we got to get Kaiopuni because normally you do Punana and the next year you do Kaiopuni, kindergarten. But so we actually was able to start this in the same year. We got both started, Punana and Kaiopuni, so our daughter would get in, you know.
It is, after you're being told no for so long,
we weren't taking no.
Yeah, you either knock the door down or you look for an open window, right? So the way I looked at it is that we looked for the open window because there had to be another way. It's easy for the administrators to tell one family no, but it won't be easy for them to tell majority of the families who choose this route no. And so what we had done, which really had became the instrumental part, is we went out to the parents because we come from a small community. We know who was all pregnant at the same time I was pregnant, So we went to the parents and we asked them, if this was a choice, would you be considering to put your child here? Would you commit to it? And he's like, yeah, okay, here's a petition. So we ended up getting majority of the parents that was entering into Punana Leo at first. And then eventually when we realized our kids weren't gonna make the Punana Leo age, we went all huli and tried to open up on Kaiopuni. So our kids would have that ability. So it is the strength of the core. We cannot do, like all the time, the foundation of Punana Leo, of Kaiopuni, was not done by one person, one ohana. It was the focus of many ohana coming together with the same mind and goal in mind. And it was, most of them were like either parents who went on these trips that we took, or grandparents of those who went on the trips we took. They seen it. They knew that they wanted it. So we created a core group. And so now we approached the administration one last time with.
Well, he still said no.
He said no, but what was wonderful.
He got tricked though.
Yeah, what was wonderful was.
He got convinced. And
what was wonderful was that we were already collaborating with different organizations outside of Hana, who was trying on their ends to kokua with the building and the starting up of it. So Punana Leo definitely
education was a big one.
Had definitely been a part of it, and they had gone and looked at the Kaiopuni pathway heads, and they kind of brought them in and let them know, oh, okay, this is what's going to happen, because they have done it before. Punana Leo have had their experience and some kind of exposure in the starting of Kaiopuni also. So without the administrators didn't know the process of starting a Kaiopuni. And we couldn't blame them. Then nobody in Hana knew. But there was a department that was already set on a deal in the state for things like this to happen. So through different people, they had brought in all of these different critical implementation of these different organizations, which allowed us to be able to get the process through and have the success of having not only Punana Leo in the first year, but Punana Leo and Papa Mala'au, which is the very first kindergarten Kaiopuni. And now they're 7 years after the start of it, and the evidence of the growth and the stability of the Haumana is extraordinary.
And we were very fortunate because I think the first Kaupunis went through the really hard grinds of fighting the system deal. We fought them and made it hard on every single step and where by the time we were starting ours, there was a shift in the DOE where they created the Nahopena'o. They wanted to make this policy that all DOE schools should have some Hawaiian language and some Hawaiian culture, implemented them, and they created the Office of Hawaiian Education. And I found that was all inspired through when our superintendent went to Aotearoa during the Hokule'a's world voyage and seeing all the Maori schools all doing their hakas and all their thing, and she went, "Oh my God, why aren't we doing this in Hawaii? Why are so she got that, Hawaii should be unique. We should focus on our culture." So there was a shift, and so even though our admin was still against it, we don't have the money, we don't have the staff, we cannot do it. So they brought in the Office of Hawaiian Education and they called a community meeting, and they broke us all into groups, and they just threw these questions out. You guys all answer this question. Some of the questions like, what would Hana be like if the Hawaiian language was to live? And it's asking these questions that it just brought such an incredible response. And the principal was there, that he kind of went, "Oh my God, I'm a servant leader. You guys want this, I gotta do it. I can't say no anymore." And of course, Office of Education was offering them a position for the first year. So, and the blessing is that principal went out and a new one came in who supports it. So we have a really good principal. His wife is one of the kumus now, and so it's definitely on its way all the way to 12th grade. It's gonna go. And the other blessing is that we got to learn from all the mistakes of the past Kaupunis and the past immersion schools, and we kind of got some really well trained. We all are trained in Kumuhonua Mauliola philosophy, so our whole staff is on the same page with the same philosophy, the same. So that was the difference on the English side, is the teachers were never together as one. They're always fighting each other, always grumbling. Whereas us, we're just one powerful unit with one mind, one accord. And you can see the reflection of the kids. It's just like night and day. The kids are just proving they're going to be the kia'is. They are going to be the ones going to get our nation back, because they have everything. They have everything, all the keys, and the language is a big, very big component. And the plug I want to say for Kamehameha schools is that you can start small, like how we did. Start with a kindergarten class. If you don't have all your staff, it gives your staff time to get trained. Because we knew that we can't fill all the kumu positions in 1 year. That every year you have time to get the kumus ready. And then so over the time, you're going to build, and then you're going to see the difference. It's just phenomenal. And that would be and once Kamehameha goes that route and really makes that commitment to that, the language is an important part of the Hawaiian culture-based education. The language holds the keys and identity, and there's been a lot of research and case studies that have shown in a lot of communities, especially in Alaska and Native Americans, where their communities were devastated with violence, with drug abuse, alcohol abuse, and just the worst statistics you could ever imagine. They started an immersion school in their communities, and everything switched around. All of a sudden, these kids coming up and the families, they gave up all the drugs, they gave up the violence, and these kids coming up, it's just a whole huli. That one factor of knowing your language changes all the statistics. And so we want to do that for our kikis, give them the best opportunities, that they know who they are in every way, that they're going to know their kuleana. They're not going to go down the route. Very rarely they're going to go down this route of what a lot of our people are going down, because they are lost and still trying to find out who they are and what they are and where their place is.
So a great part of the success of Kaiopuni right now in Hana is now the seeds are becoming the planters. They are the trees that's been starting to plant seeds within their ohana. And their ohana are taking Olelo Hawaii classes. So my husband used to, he's in Lapohoihoi now, and I work still on the school campus, but I work in the Maui College side in Hana, the Ed Center. And so I see that there's a great want and need of Hawaiian language classes, because now these families are starting to feel how it is to be a parent of a Olelo Hawaii child. And I commend them to want to learn. You know, it's like you're either going to be the one who's like, okay, baby, you just got to take them to school tomorrow and your teacher got to help you stay in for recess. You know, or you're going to be the ones like, okay, I'm going to try. I'm going to go out, start to learn. I'm going to start to lay foundations. You know, and even if they just do a year or two, you'd be surprised at how much that grows just at home with their kids. Their kids, the parents just need a little bit of information, and when they go home, the kids help them with the rest. You know, sometimes learning new things is intimidating when you're around people who know a lot about it. But when you're around kids, you don't mind learning from the kids. You don't feel intimidated from your child, you know. But sometimes, you know, these kids is kind of so like, oh, hello, Mom. You know, like you get those kind of comments, but it doesn't kill their i'ini to holomua. You know, they're like, oh, okay, you're right, Mom knew that. You know, so I hear these kind of feedback from parents that it's now these keikis who are like now going to be 6th grade, and below are becoming the seeders. They're become the nurturers of the olelo in their ohana. And not just their parents, but their grandparents. Not just their grandparents and their parents, but their uncles and their aunties and their cousins. Those who are not incorporated directly into the school right now. And what's happening there is that it's creating this frenzy that makes the family whose kids are entering into school to automatic. It's automatic, they're gonna go kaiopuni. You know, it's automatic. Why? Because my baby, and the kids are telling the parents what they want. The kids are telling the parents. I think one of the really tremendous, wonderful evidence of kids coming out of preschool is, we just think, oh yeah, they're kindergarteners. These kindergarteners who coming out of preschool is telling their parents, because they've been right next to a punana leo, and they're like Kamehameha preschool right next to punana leo. They're telling the parents, I speak Hawaiian. So the parents who didn't even think about putting their kids on the kaiapuni or on the Hawaiian medium side are being told by their kids, their kindergarteners, that that's the route that they want to go. So most of them are just, okay, that's what you guys like do, okay, we're gonna do that. You know, and some parents, some ohana is, they just not like go Hawaiian. They just don't. But when the baby has, at a young and innocent mouths are saying to them, like, we like learn this. This is where we like go. They are changing their kwapo. Like there's this whole huli in the ohana and in their mindsets of Hawaiian culture-based education, Hawaiian medium education also. So it's not only becoming something that's wonderful for our kids, but it's becoming something wonderful for our communities and our families, you know, because kaiapuni fosters ohana interaction. And you don't see as much kokua from parents. And we have both pathways, right? We have the Hawaiian medium pathway and we have the regular DOE pathway. You don't see, you can compare them to see that Hawaiian culture-based education parents are more involved, way more involved. And they're willing to come to Hoike Pai Pai, which is once every month. They're willing to go and take these extra Olelo Hawaii classes and return and come back again under the next semesters. They're willing to pay for it. You know, so that is showing that these parents, we are growing a new set of makuas. We're growing a new set of generational Hawaiians. So it's the wonderful evidence of planting the seed of the Hawaiian medium pathway or education in a community like ours in Hana.
And of course, you always got some parents that it's hard for them to be involved for whatever reasons, and it's okay too. You know, there's parents, most of the parents don't speak Hawaiian, and for some of the kids, they would be ashamed to speak at home. You know, they'd only speak at school until they see their parents trying to learn. Or like I made a bunch of videos for the parents to start learning basic Hawaiian. And when the kids start seeing their parents watching the video, then they're like, oh wow, my mom's trying, like they felt more comfortable to start trying to speak Hawaiian in front of their parents. But even if they don't get involved, the kids benefit so greatly, it doesn't even matter. there's those parents, of course, there's a higher percentage that are like willing to volunteer to go to these huiki pai pais, to be in, they used to have before COVID a lot of like campovers, Olelo Hawaii campovers, and where parents
at the restaurant.
Parents
you go
are
Hawaii night.
Yeah.
You go to a restaurant,
they have
you gotta pay for
venue in
your own
Hawaiian,
bill. You gotta pay for your own bill, but the whole night is pretty much generated in Hawaiian. They have a Hawaiian menu that's right on the side of their English menu, so they have incorporated Hawaiian throughout our community.
Yeah. The stores all have Hawaiian
stores,
signs and all the stores.
You get the Hawaiian names for the different things in the stores, and we only get 2 stores, right? So when it says stores, we don't really mean just two stores.
But,
so having something like this happen in a community as small as Hana, you can see the vaivai, you can see the benefits and the richness of how the language and the education is not just confined at school.
Yeah, it's
seeping into the ohana, it's seeping into the community. It's becoming a common thing that you see. It's becoming normalized. And so what we see, the only problem is right now is those kids who didn't take the Olelo Hawaii pathway wants to learn at 5th grade. They see, like, they don't know why the parents never put them there. And they see that majority of the kids right now from K to 7, K to 6 is Hawaiian speakers. Yeah. So in a smaller community, you will hear it more commonly. You will hear Olelo Hawaii every day. And it always turns my head because I like say, oh, who's speaking? Kind of, oh, who's that?
7 years ago, you never heard it.
And just for me to be able to olelo and to practice. And what it's doing right now, it's changing what we hear, because what we see in Hana is mostly white-skinned people. But what you hear is more Olelo Hawaii. So the sound of Hana is very Hawaiian and beautiful. And so what I feel that what we need as Hawaiian schools is to support the growth of teachers. And not only support the growth of teachers in the Hawaiian medium education and Hawaiian Olelo, is to find the value in them and pay them what they're worth. Pay them what they're worth. In the DOE system, these are bilingual people. Come on, they should get more than the one lingual people. I created that one because I'm not, so with that in mind, maybe that is what adult-minded people would need to know, why they should start to venture and professionally develop themselves in Olelo Hawaii. Is so they go notice that, these guys, this is a valuable thing. Olelo Hawaii is valuable. It's not just something that is the host language. It is like something that's vaivai. It's valuable.
There's more and more jobs opening up too.
And hopefully, if it reflects in the way that it's needed, it should be compensated in that same way too. So professionally develop yourselves that way, and maybe come out of school will up your pay. So those are the things that I think if we're gonna leave today with is that it is a wonderful thing. Evidence has shown. It seeps into, it goes beyond the walls and the campus. It goes into the family and the community. And number 3, in order for it to be really vaivai, is that we gotta know that the olelo is vaivai, and that we're gonna be able to compensate those who are sacrificing their time to move in that direction by enhancing their development, their professional development in that way, that they should be compensated as bilingual speakers of Hawaii.
And one last thing I want to share is, like I watched a lot of our keikis grow up in Hana. A lot of them didn't, even though they were born and raised in Hana, they didn't feel committed to Hana. A lot of them want to just leave and go look for jobs and whatever, do their life, enjoy life. But someone that's raised so close to the culture and the mo'olelo and the language, I feel like their commitment to the Hana is for life. Like they will truly be the ones to protect Hana, to make sure Hana stays Hana. They're gonna be committed for life. I feel like we just raised a generation of kia'is, of guardian caretakers, which is, and even though they go out, they're gonna be ambassadors for Hana. They're gonna always advocate for Hana because they know where they came from, and they're not letting no big hotels show up at Hana Bay. It's not even gonna happen. But if we didn't have that kind of foundation, they might, we need jobs. A hotel would be nice there. So I think that it'll eventually impact the entire archipelago majorly. Each school that opens up and I can see, even though this Hawaiian medium education I feel like is the best option we have right now, we can make it even better. And Kamehameha has the resources to make it even better.
And Kamehameha has a K-12.
They have the resource, and right here you have the most incredible
you guys have a
opportunity
K-12,
right here.
which means the scope and sequencing can go right through.
And you can
grow right here on one area.
Yeah.
So you guys been building your scope and sequence as you go.
As they started to develop, now we have our first middle school, right? But we had 5 years to be able to think how we're gonna deal once we get into middle school, because these kids are gonna have to change classes. So it's no more just one teacher per class. Now in middle school they have several teachers. And now how will the schedule be planned so these students can still get the rigor and still be able to have Olelo Hawaii speakers, teachers, not just one. So the baby of our Ohana, the number 6, it's her class that's the spearhead. And she's like, oh, Mom, I don't know how it's gonna be. It's like everybody behind us, they know how it's gonna be because they're gonna watch like what happens to us, And I was like, you're right. I go, but you know what, girl? Why you guys is like one of the stronger ones. You guys are the stronger ones. So I go, so just the kind is just be patient and learn what routine that they put in front of you, and you just malama kuleana. Just take care of what has been set in front of you. I go, no worry about next year. I go, that's the kumus kuleana. You just make sure this year is pa'a. So the kids who follow you go know that you guys will pa'a the trail. So that is your kuleana, girl. Is that you gotta pa'a the trail for everybody behind you. And everybody who come, you go make a more pa'a and more pa'a. I go, so you don't need to know what's ahead of you. You get the teachers, they're already like 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of you already. You just hi, you just follow. And malama kuleana. So I encourage everybody to take up a Hawaiian craft. Something. Allow that to be your first HCBE educational kind in your lives, and teach your kids. And holomua ika olelo Hawaii as much as you can.
One question.
Yeah.
Kulia is part of a 6th grade team. How long will you be that's going to just take the whole 6th grade? I know you said from kindergarten, but that's going to be a project that the 6th grade teachers will be incorporating HCBE / Olelo. So what advice to
It's a good thing. The good thing about Hawaiian culture-based education is that you can start them today, and like start with just a project, and here's a good project, sis, is coconut. Coconut is one of the best projects to do because that plant can give you so much lessons, girl.
You can do so much with it.
So much with the kind. And I did the canoe plants from gathering, knowing its background information, scientific name, common name, Hawaiian name, the family orientation, how it's used, where it's grown. Then you go into the hana of it, using of it, out to the propagation.
Mo'olelo.
Oh, mo'olelo, amele, mo'olelo. No, and you get more mele and you get more olelos for the new get plenty. And then the wonderful thing about it is that gotta propagate. We gotta plant, and you gotta be like Johnny Appleseed. We gotta be coconut apple seeds. Like planting coconut grows all over because it is something that is very versatile. One of the most versatile canoe plants out of them all. Before we used to have chokes. So when I was a facilitator, coconut was like my number one. And you know what? I felt every Hawaiian kid should have husk or coconut in one time in their life. And if coming from Hana, you'd be surprised how much of them never. So the first thing I did was just give them a coconut, okay? Open them. It's like, oh, Auntie, how are we going to open them? I was like, bro, pound them on the concrete over there. Like, do something. Problem solving. Look at what you get around, because we're in Hana. We don't have the freedom of going to Walmart for everything we want. We no more that. And if you know more, what you know more, you either go stay there and cry and wish that you could drink that coconut water, or you go figure something out. Figure it out, you guys. So one day was just, okay, get over there, pound it up, take as much as you guys can off. Then when we came back, I got the pickaxe. I put them in the ground. I go, I'm going to help you guys out. Because Hawaiians, we had tools. Yes, we did. But you guys, you little kids, we got to give you guys pickaxe. You know what I mean? Like when I was a little kid, I don't go out to the beach and have a pickaxe. No, I never. But we're going to help you. We're going to open it a bit more. So I started opening it a little bit more so they would be able to hooky the husk off. And, there's always a prize at the end, right? You get to drink the water, and save the husk. We're going to do something with that, and save the meat. We're going to make coconut candy. We're going to make haupia. So from husking all the way to making senet, to making haupia, to making coconut candy. These are all little projects that's within the whole theme of coconut, And then you can weave, we can make things out of the shell. So I like to do the hula out of the shell. I'm using the shell as an implement. And so that was my way of using it. But of course, give them what are other uses that was used with the shell. So coconut is a good place to start, because the kids get to drink the water and eat the meat. Yeah. So there is a prize at the end of that.
And just being able to use all of our plants available, and you become a practitioner. Because how can we save a forest if we never even use what's in the forest?
Yeah.
How can we speak up for Lauhala Forest and don't touch my Lauhala Forest, but you never did use the Lauhala? But if you're an actual gatherer, like I use that Lauhala, I need it. That's how I practice my culture. If you bulldoze that hala bush, I can't practice my culture anymore. So we got to create practitioners, and being able to see what we have around and use them, and then they have that ownership, that connects, that pilina, and they'll protect that forever, because it'll pass to their kids, and it'll continue on.
So I actually have several coconut groves in Hana. I took my kids.
And they're big, producing now?
Yeah, I was like, we're going to plant coconut. We're like, where I go? Some place where they can tell us we cannot pick them up. So, so we will go like places that we know that the thing will be able to prosper, and that one day you guys will know that you plant this coconut in Auntie. So it's definitely, you guys could use some coconuts around here, bro.
I know,
yeah. And
that's
honestly,
Hawaiian culture-based education.
Right there. Like I
don't trim the coconuts either. Let them ripen.
To one thing, I think the canoe plants is a wonderful place to start.
Yeah, it is.
Because we have kukui. We have, and you just got a huli for a mele, huli for the mo'olelo, and all of those in the kind. I actually wrote a major curriculum about them that a person from the mainland would be able, with narrative. Person from the mainland can just pick up my curriculum, open them, and go like narratively. I wrote even the things to say. And at first I was like, this is pidgin. So the grammar is correct. This is pidgin. You're going to talk, this guy's not going to know what you say. So that was like a prelude in front of the curriculum that I made. But also the kind place to start. And plenty olelo.
And then, of course, oli, protocol into the places, oli mahalo, to give mahalo is a really important part of it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't suggest, like, I know Kamehameha has the means to go get the coconuts and bring them over here to the kids.
No, just take you there.
Yeah,
and forget
totally,
it.
girl.
Just get the bus.
Yeah, get the field trip on, girl. Like, what we're gonna do is just go grab one coconut, and then we're coming back.
But asking permission
Yeah,
for the area,
but the
protocol, and the
protocols,
respect,
yeah.
and the full circle coming back and replanting.
Yeah. So, and what I've realized with those kind of project-based education, girl, cannot do them like in a room, like skate carpet. Like hot skate carpet, they don't do really well. The custodian's not gonna like you, girl. You're gonna need your own light. So one of my philosophies about Hawaiian based education was, outside of the four walls. You know, so I took them outside. You know, I actually encouraged our Makahana Kaiki, which is a building and construction organization that partners with the school to build a pavilion with water. You know, so they can wash hands and shoot down the place when it's out of kind. But so you can, you know, Hawaiian-based education is sometimes not clean. Most times not clean. You know, you're going that kind. So you put them in an environment that it'll be easy to clean after.
And that's the other thing too, for the kids that don't thrive in academics, a lot of them, they thrive in the hands-on and they get a chance to feel good about themselves. Like they're, a lot of times the ones that's really good at writing cannot open the coconut. Right. But the kid can't write, but he can open that coconut and it helps them. And I think that, I really believe that standard-based, the testing has really messed up their spirit for a lot of the kids. I think it's really, that make them feel like they're inadequate, they're not, you know, and that puts in that, and once they put that in their head, they believe it. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you got to make sure that every kid feels good, that they shine at something, and then you portfolio it, you know, make it, exemplify it, and make them know that you are super special and amazing because you can do this, and not everybody can do this. You have a very important place.
That's a good
in
one,
society.
portfolio.
So you said
document.
Pai, and you also said portfolio. So what is the assessment pieces, the eval?
Well, it's a combination. Ho'ike is definitely, you know, because the academic rigor is there. Of course, they got to have the skills, but then once they have the motivation and understand and see the relevance of the rigor or the academic related to the culture, then they're more motivated. It's not something abstract that has no connection. There's no drive, no reason to want to do it.
Ho'ike, which I think a lot of our kids in the DOE system lacks, is presentation. So the Ho'ike is presentation, is the full Ho'ike, where they are up in the front, they have prepared themselves a speech with certain items and things that they need to include and be able to ho'ike. And so when we think ho'ike is more than just kaholo in and kaholo out, you know, it's really being able to have the demeanor of presenting, and be ready for a presentation. So I think that is enough of an evaluation to show whether or not the child has definitely grasped the knowledge that you are trying to extend out to them, is when they become teachers themselves.
Yeah. And the communication, being able to speak in front of a crowd is so important. Too many of our kids are shamed, and how can they become leaders and make a difference if they're shamed to speak in front of a group? So we got to train them young how to get up, share mana'o, and just make it this a normalized thing. So that then when things happen, they're not going to be one to sit inside, oh, I don't like go up there. Like, no, we got to go up there. we got to share. So.
So mahalo kako for the kind and
yes, mahalo.
eola mau i ka mea Hawaii.